Don't let them take my mom, human. Be my dad instead, and that's how we became a family. The rain on Zorov colony never stopped. Thick black clouds hung low over the broken streets, and lightning flashed between the metal skeletons of old towers. The smell of rust, oil, and smoke filled the air. Ethan Cole moved carefully through the ruined market, his boots splashing in puddles. He was a human trader, used to walking through dangerous places. His coat was heavy, his blaster hidden under it. He was looking for salvage, anything worth taking back to his ship. The stalls were empty. Some still had broken shelves and bent cooking pots. Others were nothing but piles of dust. Then he heard it. A sound small, trembling like a kitten. Crying. Ethan stopped. His hand rested on the grip of his blaster. In this colony, a sound could mean anything. A trap, a dying creature, or someone desperate enough to kill for food. He stepped closer. Between two fallen metal walls, in the shadows he saw her, a small alien girl. Her skin was pale silver, almost glowing in the dim light. Her eyes were huge, shining green. She was curled up on the ground, holding a piece of stale bread that looked older than she was. Her clothes were torn, her feet bare, her hair tangled. When she saw Ethan, she didn't scream or run. She looked straight at him and whispered, in broken human language, "Please, be my dad." The words hit him like a punch. Ethan froze. Before he could speak, another voice came from deeper in the shadows, a weak, strained voice. "Be my husband." Ethan's eyes adjusted. There was someone else, an alien woman, lying against the wall. Her skin was the same pale silver as the girl's, but her face was tired, and blood ran down her side. She was clutching her stomach with shaking hands. Ethan took a cautious step forward. "Who hurt you?" he asked. The woman coughed, her voice cracking. "Gang, they hunt widows and orphans. My mate killed. We ran," the girl crawled closer to Ethan, clutching his coat. "Dad, please. Don't let them take us." Ethan knelt down, his mind racing. He didn't know these people. He wasn't looking for trouble. But he remembered another time years ago, when his own daughter had been cold and hungry during the human-alien war. He had failed her then. Not again. He lifted the girl in his arms. She was light as air. Then he bent down and helped the mother stand, wrapping an arm around her. "Come on, we're getting out of here." They moved quickly, staying close to the walls. The streets were too quiet. Ethan's gut told him they were being watched. A distant metallic sound echoed, like boots stepping on wet steel. The mother's breathing grew heavier. "They're coming." Ethan guided them into a narrow alley and toward a broken bridge. The colony's skeleton loomed over them like a graveyard. He could feel the girl's small fingers gripping his coat tightly, as if letting go would mean death. They reached an old service tunnel. Ethan forced the door open with a grunt and hurried them inside. The tunnel smelled of mold and stale air, but at least it was dry. "Sit here," Ethan said, helping the mother lean against the wall. He gave the girl a protein bar from his pocket. She tore into it like she hadn't eaten in days. Ethan checked his blaster. Fully charged. That was when he heard it, a voice from somewhere above the tunnel entrance. A voice that made his blood turn cold. "Human, we know you have them. Hand them over, and we might let you live." The girl's eyes widened with fear. The mother's hands clenched into fists, despite her weakness. Ethan's jaw tightened. He had a choice: leave them, to save himself, or stand his ground against whoever was out there. Lightning flashed through a crack in the wall, casting a sharp shadow of a tall figure outside. The voice spoke again, slow and mocking. "You have 5 seconds, human, before we come in and take them." Ethan's hand moved to his blaster. The voice outside was closer now. Heavy boots thudded on the wet ground above the tunnel. Ethan's eyes narrowed. He could tell from the tone that these weren't just street thugs. They were organized. They were hunters. The alien mothers. Breathing was shaky, but her eyes burned with warning. They won't stop, she whispered. Once they mark us, they follow until we're caught, and if they catch us. She stopped, looking at the girl. The child didn't need the rest of the sentence. Her tiny hands gripped Ethan's sleeve tightly. Ethan looked toward the rusted tunnel door. It wouldn't hold for long. He thought fast. We move now. He pulled the mother up again, her arm around his shoulders, the girl in his other arm. They slipped deeper into the tunnel. Boots splashing in cold water. From behind them came the sound of metal tearing. The gang had broken in. Run! The mother hissed. Ethan didn't need telling twice. He pushed forward, guiding them through twisting paths. The walls here were covered in faded alien writing, warning signs from a time when this place had been alive. Shadows danced on the walls as flashlights swept through the darkness behind them. A voice echoed, sharp and cruel. Human! You can't hide forever. That little girl is worth a fortune. Ethan's blood boiled. He had heard this before, years ago, on another world, when slavers took children from camps and sold them to the highest bidder. Not again. He spotted a side door, half buried under debris. Kicking away loose metal, he forced it open. The small space inside was dusty, but it had a service ladder going up. Climb, he told the girl, quickly. She hesitated, fear in her eyes. Dad, will you follow? Right behind you. The mother pushed the girl upward, then followed slowly, her wound making every movement painful. Ethan came last, keeping one hand on his blaster and one on the ladder. Halfway up, the sound of boots below grew louder. Someone shone a light up the shaft. Blaster fire hissed through the air, striking the walls inches from Ethan's legs. Girl screamed, but Ethan shouted, "Keep climbing!" They reached the top, bursting into a maintenance hall. The smell of burnt wires and damp air hit them. Ethan slammed the hatch shut and twisted the lock. The mother leaned against the wall, her breath ragged. They'll find another way up. They always do. Ethan scanned the hallway. The place was half collapsed, but he spotted a gap in the wall that led into an abandoned storage bay. If they could get through there, they might reach the outer streets, and maybe, just maybe, Ethan's ship. The girl tugged on his coat. Where are we going? To somewhere safe, Ethan said. But you need to be quiet. They moved into the storage bay. Old crates were stacked like forgotten tombstones. Dust rose in clouds with every step. Ethan kept his blaster ready, his ears tuned for the slightest sound. Then, too late, he heard it. A faint click. The lights in the bay flickered on, revealing 5 armed figures standing between them and the exit. The gang leader stepped forward, tall, armored, with a cruel smile. "There you are," he said. "Hand them over, human. You walk away alive." Ethan raised his blaster. "Not happening." The leader tilted his head. "You think you can protect them from us?" Ethan didn't answer. His stance said enough that the leader's smile faded into something colder. "Then you die with them." Cliffhanger. End of part 2. The gang stepped closer, weapons ready. Ethan's finger tightened on the trigger, the girl hiding behind his leg, the mother standing weak but defiant. The standoff had begun. The air in the storage bay was heavy. Every second felt like it could explode into violence. Ethan kept his blaster aimed at the gang leader, but he knew the truth. 5 against 1 wasn't good odds, especially while protecting a wounded woman and a child. The girl pressed herself against his leg, trembling. He could feel her fear. The mother stood beside him, her silver skin pale from blood loss, but her eyes still burned with strength. The gang leader took a slow step forward. "You've got 2 choices, human. Hand them over, or watch them die in front of you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Not happening," the leader chuckled. "You don't even know them. Why die for strangers?" Ethan didn't move. His heart pounded, but his voice was steady. Because I've lost enough family in my life. I'm not losing another. The leader tilted his head. Family? He looked at them. Girl, that thing isn't even your species. The girl's small voice broke the tension for a moment. I don't care. He's my dad now. The leader smirked, amused, but Ethan felt something deep inside him shift. Those words, so simple, so sure, anchored him. He glanced at the mother. We're getting out of here. Both of you. Her lips trembled. Why? Why risk your life? For a moment, Ethan was back in the past. Another night, another storm, when his own daughter had cried for help. And he hadn't been there in time. That memory had haunted him for years. He looked into the mother's eyes. Because I made a mistake once, I won't make it again. Without another word, Ethan fired at the ceiling lights, plunging the room. Into darkness. The gang shouted in surprise. Shots echoed through the bay, flashes lighting up the shadows. Ethan grabbed the girl and pulled her behind a crate, then yanked the mother into cover. Move when I tell you, he whispered. The leader's voice barked orders, but confusion spread among his men. Ethan waited, counting the seconds between. Blaster fire. Now! They darted toward a side door. The girl's small feet splashed in puddles, the mother leaning on Ethan's shoulder. A stray shot struck a crate beside them, filling the air with smoke and sparks. They burst through the door into a narrow passage lit by flickering red emergency lights. The mother stumbled. I can't. Ethan pulled her along. You can. Just a little further. The girl's voice was desperate. Dad, please, don't let them take us. Ethan stopped for a split second and looked at her, those big green eyes full of trust. He knelt down just enough to meet her gaze. I promise, he said. As long as I breathe, no one will take you from me. The mother looked at him, something unspoken passing between them. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was trust, fragile and new. From behind, shouts and boots grew louder. They were being hunted through the tunnels again. Ethan spotted an old map painted on the wall. A faded line marked an emergency exit deeper ahead. It might lead to the surface, or a dead end. Either way, it was their only chance. Cliffhanger. End of part 3. As they ran toward the exit, a loud metallic clang echoed. A rusted gate slammed shut ahead of them. And from the shadows behind, the gang leader's voice purred. End of the line, human. The clang of the gate echoed like a death sentence. Ethan skidded to a halt, the mother leaning on him, the girl clutching his coat. The rusted metal door ahead was locked from the other side. No way through. Behind them, boots pounded the floor. The gang's shadows stretched across the flickering walls. The leader's voice carried that same mocking tone. You run well, human, but running time is over. Ethan's eyes darted around the narrow passage. Pipes lined the ceiling, some dripping with water. The floor was scattered with old metal crates, rusted tools, and half-broken machinery. His mind worked fast. He'd been in worse corners before, and the only way out of a trap was to set one of your own. He pushed the girl and her mother behind a stack of crates. Stay here. Don't move until I say. The mother's hand gripped his arm. Ethan. Don't. But he was already moving. He yanked a loose pipe from the wall, steam hissing out with a sharp screech. The air in the passage grew hot and misty. He crouched low, rolling a metal drum toward the middle of the corridor. It clanged and rattled, echoing through the tunnels. The gang leader appeared first, blaster in hand, his men right behind. You think you can scare us with noise? Ethan didn't answer. He was watching the ceiling, the old support cables, holding up a cluster of heavy pipes right above where the gang now stood. The leader took another step forward, and Ethan fired his blaster at the cables. With a sharp snap, the pipes came crashing down, the sound booming in the enclosed tunnel. Steam exploded into the air, blinding the gang. Metal struck the floor with enough force to knock two of them down. "Now!" Ethan shouted. The girl ran toward him, the mother limping but determined. He grabbed them both and pulled them past the chaos, stepping over fallen enemies and ducking through the smoke. But the leader wasn't down. Through the mist, Ethan saw his glowing red visor turn toward them. A flash of light, the leader fired. The shot missed Ethan by inches, burning a hole in the wall. Ethan ducked around the corner, forcing the emergency door open with his shoulder. They stumbled into another tunnel, this one wider and colder, leading toward faint daylight in the fight wind. Distance, the girl's eyes lit up. "We're almost outside." Ethan didn't slow down. "Don't celebrate yet." Behind them, footsteps returned, slower now but steady. The leader's voice was closer than it should have been. "I like you, human. You fight hard. But I will take them." The mother's breathing was ragged. "He won't stop until one of you is dead." Ethan glanced at her. "Then I guess we both know how this ends." They pushed forward, the light at the end of the tunnel growing brighter. The sound of wind told him the surface was close. But just as they neared the exit, a shadow moved in front of it. Two more gang members stepped into view, blocking the way. Cliffhanger end of Part 4. The leader's voice echoed from behind, and the two men ahead raised their weapons. Ethan was trapped between them, nowhere left to run. The tunnel felt smaller now. Ethan stood in the middle, the alien mother and the girl behind him. Ahead, two armed gang members blocked the exit. Behind, the leader's boots echoed closer with each step. It was a trap in every direction. The girl's voice was a frightened whisper. "Dad, what do we do?" Ethan didn't look back. His eyes stayed on the men ahead. "We stand." The mother's voice was tight. "You can't win this fight." Ethan's grip on his blaster tightened. "Maybe not. But I can make sure you both get out." The gang leader's voice came from behind, slow and mocking. "I admire you, human. Loyalty is rare. But loyalty won't stop a bullet." The leader's footsteps grew louder. "Give me the girl, and maybe I'll keep the woman alive for a while." Ethan turned his head slightly, meeting the girl's green eyes. "When I say run, you run. Don't stop. Don't look back." She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "Not without you," the leader laughed. "How sweet." "Shame it ends here." Ethan moved first. In one motion, he dropped to a knee and fired at the two men ahead. His first shot hit the tunnel wall beside them, causing a small avalanche of loose rock and dust. The sudden blast blinded them for a second. Ethan used that moment. "Go!" The mother pulled the girl toward the exit, limping as fast as she could. Ethan followed, firing again to keep the gang back. But the leader was fast, too fast. He closed the distance, his red visor glowing in the dim light. With a powerful swing, he knocked Ethan's blaster from his hand, sending it clattering across the floor. The two men at the exit recovered and stepped forward, aiming their weapons at the mother and girl. Ethan didn't think, he acted. He slammed into the leader, driving both of them into the wall. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he didn't let go. "Run!" He shouted again. The girl screamed, "Dad!" But the mother dragged her toward the light, refusing to waste the chance. The leader's gauntlet struck Ethan's jaw, sending stars across his vision. Ethan stumbled but stayed on his feet. His hands found the leader's own blaster, and they struggled over it, the weapon twisting between them. A shot rang out, hitting one of the men at the exit. He fell, clutching his side. The second man hesitated, fear flashing in his eyes. That was all the mother needed. With a desperate cry, she grabbed a loose pipe from the ground and swung it, knocking the man aside. Ethan finally wrenched the blaster from the leader's grip and aimed straight at his visor. "You're not taking them." The leader tilted, his head almost curious. "Then you'll die with them." Ethan fired. The leader fell back, armor smoking. But Ethan didn't wait to see if he was dead. He turned and ran toward the exit, catching up to the mother and girl. They burst into the open wasteland, the cold wind hitting their faces. For the first time in hours, the sky, even under heavy clouds, felt like freedom. But the mother stumbled, collapsing to her knees. Her wound was worse now, blood soaking her side. The girl cried out, holding her. "Dad, don't let her die." Ethan dropped beside them, his heart pounding. He could hear shouts from the tunnel behind. The gang wasn't finished yet. Cliffhanger. End of part 5. Ethan looked at the horizon, then at the dying woman in his arms. He had to choose, run to his ship now and risk her bleeding out, or find somewhere to save her and face the gang again. The cold wind cut across the wasteland, carrying the smell of dust and distant storms. Ethan's heart pounded as he looked at the alien mother in his arms. Her silver skin was turning pale, her breaths shallow. The girl knelt beside them, tears streaking her face. "Dad, do something," she begged. Ethan scanned the horizon. His ship was out there, 2 miles away across open ground. They could reach it if they ran. But the woman wouldn't survive the trip without help. Behind them, faint shouts echoed from the tunnel. The gang was regrouping. Time was running out. Ethan's mind raced. Then he remembered something. An old human medical outpost he'd seen marked on a colony map when he first arrived. If it still had power, it might save her. But it was in the opposite direction of his ship. Deeper into the wasteland. It was a gamble. The mother's eyes fluttered open, her voice weak. "Leave me, take her, be her father." The girl shook her head violently. "No, we're a family now. Families don't leave each other." Those words hit Ethan hard. He had promised her, as long as he breathed, no one would take her away. That promise didn't mean just her. It meant the woman too. Ethan made his choice. "We're going to the outpost," he said firmly. "Hold on to me." The girl grabbed his coat as he lifted the mother into his arms. Every step was heavy, the soft sand pulling at his boots, but he didn't slow down. The wind howled, the sky darkening as a storm began to roll in. Halfway there, a shape appeared on the horizon. A speeder bike. Ethan's stomach dropped. The gang had found a faster way to follow. He pushed harder, his legs burning, until the outpost finally came into view. A squat, rusted building with a broken antenna. Its door hung crooked, but it was still standing. He kicked it open and hurried inside. Dust swirled in the air, but the faint hum of old generators gave him hope. He laid the mother on a cracked medical table and rushed to the control panel. The old human interface flickered, barely alive. "Come on, work." With a groan of machinery, the medical pod slid open. Ethan gently placed her inside, sealing the glass cover. The pod's weak lights flickered, then steadied. The girl stood beside him, clutching his sleeve. "Will she be okay?" Ethan met her eyes. "If this thing keeps running, yes." But outside, the speeder's engine roared closer. Ethan picked up an old rifle from the wall, human-made, heavy and still loaded. He checked the door. The gang would be here any second. He glanced at the girl. "Stay with your mom. No matter what happens, don't open that pod." Her voice was small, but strong. "You're coming back, right?" Ethan gave her a faint smile. "Count on it." Cliffhanger. End of part 6. The speeder screeched to a halt outside. Boots hit the ground. The gang leader's voice carried through the wind. "Human, you can't save them both." Ethan stepped into the doorway, rifle in hand. The storm at his back. "Watch me." The wind howled through the broken walls of the old outpost. Lightning cracked in the distance, lighting up the wasteland in white flashes. Ethan stood in the doorway, rifle ready, eyes locked on the figures approaching through the storm. The gang leader was at the front, his armor dented and scorched from their last fight. 4 more armed men fanned out behind him, their weapons glowing in the gloom. Inside, the girl knelt by the medical pod, her small hands pressed to the glass. Her mother lay inside, pale but breathing steadily, the machine's faint hum the only thing keeping her alive. The leader's voice cut through the wind. "One last chance, human. Hand them over, and maybe I won't make you suffer." Ethan's grip on the rifle tightened. "If you want them, you'll have to walk over me." The leader smirked. That was the plan. They charged. Ethan's first shot dropped the man on the far left. The storm swallowed the sound, but the flash lit up the sand. He ducked back behind the doorframe as plasma bolts ripped through the air, burning holes in the walls. The girl's voice trembled from inside. "Dad, don't get hurt." Ethan took a deep breath, then rolled out into the open, firing in quick bursts. 2 more gang members went down. But the leader kept coming, firing with deadly precision. A bolt grazed Ethan's arm, the heat searing his skin. He gritted his teeth, pushing through the pain. The leader reached him, and the fight turned brutal. Fists, elbows, and the crash of armor against bone. Inside, the girl watched with wide eyes, tears mixing with fear. She saw Ethan get knocked to the ground, the leader raising a blade for the final strike. "No!" she screamed, grabbing the loose pipe Ethan had brought in earlier. She ran to the doorway and with all her strength, swung it at the leaders. Helmet. The blow made the leader stumble. Ethan seized the moment, driving the butt of his rifle into the leader's chest, then firing point blank into his visor. The red glow in the leader's eyes went dark as he collapsed in the sand. Silence fell. The last surviving gang member turned and fled into the storm, leaving their leader's body behind. Ethan stood there, chest heaving, the rifle heavy in his hands. He looked at the girl, who was still holding the pipe, shaking but determined. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, tears spilling over. "I wasn't going to let him take you." Ethan smiled faintly. "Looks like I'm not the only one who made a promise today." They went back inside. The medical pod beeped softly. The woman's vitals were stronger now. Slowly, her eyes opened. She saw Ethan and her daughter together, both alive. You stayed," she whispered. Ethan knelt beside her. "Told you. No one takes my family." The girl climbed onto the bed beside her mother, hugging her tightly. Then she looked at Ethan with a bright smile through her tears. "See, Mom? I told you, he's our dad now." The woman's tired eyes softened, a faint smile touching her lips. "Then, I suppose I'm your wife." For the first time in years, Ethan felt something he thought was gone forever, a home. Not made of walls or a ship, but of people. The storm outside raged on, but inside the outpost, it was warm. The 3 of them sat together, not as strangers anymore, but as a family born in fire, danger, and unbreakable promises. Final emotional punchline. Ethan looked at them both and thought, "I came here alone, and I'm leaving with everything I ever lost."